What's going on, everybody? Jay here. We are back with another tier maker ranking video, this time looking at the Hudson Soft games for the NES per request of viewer Rydog11. So Rydog, this one's for you. Thank you for the request. I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate you asking me to take a look at these games. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different than the Capcom rankings. I'm actually going to provide you guys with a pre-ranking, if you will. Kind of a nostalgia look back before I get into the actual, I'm playing them as an adult. This is what I think they are now. There's definitely some on here I had not played before, and some that are going to be ranked based completely on perception and not necessarily on my experience as a child playing them. So let's hop into those real quick. So right off the bat on this pre-ranking, you see I've got 3 S tiers. I've got Adventure Island 3, Bomberman, and Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom. A tier were Adventure Island 2, and Bonk's Adventure. B ranking was Bomberman 2 and Felix the Cat. C was Milon's Secret Castle. D was Adventures of Dino Riki, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, and Starship Hector. And the F tier was Mendel Castle and Xerxes. Now, as an adult, let's go back in and take a look at these. So starting off, Adventure Island. Everyone knows Adventure Island. Adventure Island is a classic game. It's a side-scrolling platform where you play as Master Higgins and you skateboard for some reason, because why not? Honestly, the game is really good. It's not a great game. It is definitely not as good as I remember it. There's a lot of repetition. The music isn't great, and the assets in the game, the art is cartoony, but it's also kind of, I don't want to say it's bad, but it's average. So I'm going to say Adventure Island is a B. Adventure Island 2 introduced some neat stuff. So you actually got some different mounts that you could use. It introduced an overworld, an egg choosing game at the end of every level, which was decidedly not random. And some other stuff as well. But one of the big problems with Adventure Island 2 is it is so easy. This is the easiest game in this entire tier ranker. In this entire tier ranking is Adventure Island 2. I expected this to have the difficulty of Adventure Island 1, and it's just not there. It is super simple. Because of that, because I kind of breezed through it, I'm going to give Adventure Island 2 a C ranking. Now, Adventure Island 3 kind of course corrects a little bit. It's a solid game. You've got all of the crazy mounts that you got some of the crazy mounts you got in Adventure Island 2, and it introduces some new ones. The overworld map is still there. They jettison the egg game. And there's an alien spaceship, because why not? It was the 90s. We all had alien spaceships in our games. That was just the way it worked. This came out at the tail end of the NES's lifespan, so I never played this as a kid. I was ranking that completely based on speculation, but I'm happy to say that Adventure Island 3 is an A tier. Now, Adventures of Dino Riki. I had Dino Riki rated pretty low, and I remember seeing this game as a kid and thinking, oh, another caveman game, yay. I kind of equated it with Adventure Island. I was like, I don't need another caveman game. And I know I have played it, but it did not stick in my head. But boy, I'm telling you, as an adult, this game's really fun. It's a shooter. It is a classic top-down shooter. You're moving through a level, you collect different weapons, and you have waves of enemies attacking you. It is everything you'd want in a shooter. And it looks good. It's a shockingly good game. I give the Adventures of Dino Riki, I mean, before I give it a ranking, it's very hard. It is a very difficult game, and you will die frequently. But like any shooter, I think the more you play it and the more you kind of memorize the patterns of the enemies, the better you'll be. But some of the controls can get a little wonky. You get speed ups where you can run around, but there's kind of obstacles in the levels that you can fall into that can kill you, which is a little frustrating when you're trying to go through the game. So it's very, very, very close to being an A tier. And you know what? I'm not going to give it a B. I had so much fun playing this when I was recording the footage. I'm going to give Dino Riki an A tier. Now, Bomberman I had way up in the rankings in my perception of the games when I was younger. And I am here to tell you that Bomberman did not age well. That game is hard to play. It's rough looking, it plays rough, it doesn't sound great, the controls don't work terribly well. I mean, for something that's as simple as a D-pad and a bomb button, you would hope it would work better, but it doesn't really. The maps are a little too big for what you need to do because Bomberman's really slow and you have a time limit on each level. There's solid bones here. There's good ideas, but it doesn't quite execute to the level of Bomberman games down the road. So unfortunately, Bomberman, which was top tier in the last one, is going to be a D now. Now, Bomberman 2, on the other hand, corrects a lot of the problems that Bomberman 1 had. The maps are a lot smaller. You move a lot better. The graphics are better. The sound is better. It's a lot of, a lot of quality of life improvements in this game, which is a nice change of pace. And you really begin to see kind of the beginning of what Bomberman has become and what you're going to get with stuff like Super Bomberman R and Bomberman 64 and stuff like that. Bomberman 2 is a really, really good game. I give Bomberman 2 an A tier. All right, moving right along. We are going on now. We're about halfway through. There's only about 13 games released by Hudson on the NES, and we're halfway through, and we're not even through the B's yet. I don't get it. Anyway, we have Bonk's Adventure, which I only remember from the TurboGrafx 16. I actually didn't know there was an NES version of Bonk's Adventure released until a few years ago. So my perception of what this ranking was in the initial run was completely based on, holy crap, there was a Bonk's Adventure on NES. Awesome. It plays like Bonk's Adventure. Like they took a TurboGrafx 16 game and squeezed it onto an NES cart somehow, and it plays really well and it looks really good. Now, it plays really well if you're a fan of Bonk's Adventure, which I am. I'm not going to say I'm a fan, but I don't dislike the game, but it is definitely not my favorite platformer. So for me personally, while I can see why this would be an S rank, I can't quite put it that high. So I'm going to say that Bonk's Adventure is a solid A, though. Now here's one I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did, and that's Felix the Cat. If you're a fan of classic animation like I am, you know who Felix the Cat is, and to see him get a video game that's a platformer, pretty cool. The game is a platformer, like I said. It's pretty basic, but one of the neat things about it is that you play as Felix, who dips into his magic bag. And in that magic bag are all of his different power-ups and abilities that he can get, and he can turn into all kinds of different things. Like you can become Magician Felix, he can drive a car, he can drive a tank, and each of those power-ups has different abilities. And the other nice thing about that is the further down that tier, or the further down that road you go of power-ups, the more chances you have to complete the level, because getting hit when you're the tank doesn't automatically kill you, it drops you back to the car. Getting hit with the car drops you back to the Magician, etc., etc. On top of that, you have a game that looks really good and sounds really good. This is one of the most surprising and pleasant surprises of this video. I give Felix the Cat an S rank. Now, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu is a game I saw as a kid that I wish I had played, because when I saw the cover, and even though I knew who Jackie Chan was, I didn't really have an interest in playing the game. It was kind of like the Dragon the Bruce Lee story game for the Genesis. I was like, hey, cool, it's a Bruce Lee game. I don't need to play that. But this one I probably should have played, because it's a pretty cool game. It's not to say it's perfect. There's definitely some flaws in play here, but I mean, this is a platformer. I mean, it's Hudson. Chances are it's going to be a platformer. With some neat power-ups and abilities that you can get, like Jackie actually gets like spin kicks and stuff that you can use with a limited amount of uses throughout the levels. And there's some neat enemy designs, and Jackie himself looks great. Now, that's not to say there's not some problems. The jumping is a little bit weird. Hitboxes are a little strange. But I'm going to give Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu a B. Mendel Castle is not a game I expected, and it is not a game I anticipated enjoying as much as I did. I don't want you to get the impression that I think this is an S tier, because I don't. I think it is a very flawed game that does not explain anything to the user. And this is kind of the problem of modern gaming, right? When you don't have the instruction manual, you're kind of left to guesswork when you go into these older games to make sure that you know what you're doing. I had no idea what I was doing when I played this game. I thought I just had to flip tiles and send the enemies into the walls, which is very difficult, not realizing that I could collect the stars and I could use the different power-up levels, or the power-up tiles that are on the stage to my advantage. But I've done that now, and it's a fun game. It's not something that I'm going to come back to frequently, but it is a neat chance to play a fun puzzle game. I'm going to give it a C, but that is an improvement greatly from where it was. Milon's Secret Castle. Oh boy, this is one I had as a kid, and I blocked it from my memory. I hate this game. I hated this game as a kid. I put it out of my memory and just did not want to remember it. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, that is familiar. Why is that familiar? And it's familiar because I hated it as a kid. This is one of the first games I ever sold. Just straight up got rid of. I was like, nope, not for me. It's a kind of a puzzle platformer, I guess. You play as Mylon, a little magician boy who throws balls at people. The enemies come back to life right away. I don't like this game. It's an F. It will always be an F. Eternally an F is Mylon's Secret Castle. Now, Princess Tomato in Salad Kingdom is a really interesting game. This is one that I had rented as a kid, and I really loved because I was playing stuff like Shadowgate and Deja Vu at the time. And this is 1000% right in that vein of games. And as a kid, this would have been absolutely an A tier and super high on the list. Even as an adult, this is still going to rank really high. It's not an A tier anymore because it is very rough around the edges, and there's definitely some stuff that I'm like, okay, that's I can see the weakness now that through the eyes of adulthood, I can look at it and say, well, that was probably a bad decision to do it that way. But it's still a fun game. I mean, this is a weird game, right? Like, you play as a cucumber knight. You've been told by the dying king that you can have the princess's hand in marriage if you save her, the tomato princess. You save a baby persimmon on the road by giving it water from the lake. There's like turnip guards that won't let you in unless you have a pass. It's a weird game. It's a decidedly weird game, but it's really, really fun. I'm gonna give it a B. Starship Hector I had never played before and had never heard of before this tier ranker. And I had it ranked really low based on my perception because it's a game called Starship Hector. That's pretty dumb. It's not great. I mean, it's Starship Hector. Like, it's a shooter. And there's kind of a neat time mechanic in play here where you go back in time. The further into the game you go, like when you die, you go back in time to correct the wrongs of what you did on the previous run. But it's just not fun. Like, it's a good idea, but not a great execution. So I give Starship Hector our second F. Sorry. You can hang out with Mylon Hector. Final on the list is Xerxes, which had also never played before and had no idea what it was. And I'm really impressed by this game. Like, it's a really neat idea. It's kind of like, what if Mega Man and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, had a weird robot baby? I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, it's a side-scrolling game. You're able to shoot. You get different power-ups. You have to pay with balls, which is funny. But I mean, it's a neat game. Like, I was really impressed by this. It's not perfect, but it's really good. I'm gonna give Xerxes a B. Alright guys, there you have it. My rankings for the Hudson Soft games on the NES. RyDog11, you asked for this, you get it. Never let it be said I don't give you guys anything. These are fun to do for me. Like, it's nice to go back and kind of recollect on games that I've played in the past and look at ones that I had never played when I was a kid and see how they hold up nowadays. And in cases like Bonk's Adventure, it's really neat to see something that was clearly designed for a 16-bit console, or at least optimized for a 16-bit console, made to work on an 8-bit cart. It's a really neat... these are fun to do. In the description below is a link to do this as well, so if you want to do this on your own, go for it. I would love to see your results. Be sure to tag me on socials and let me know what you think. Guys, that is going to do it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like down below. Comment below and let me know what your S tiers and A tiers, and if there are any F tier Hudson Soft games. And if you are a fan of Mylon's Secret Castle or Starship Hector, I am sorry, but you're wrong. It's not. They're not good. They're not good games. Play them again. Play them again today, and you'll understand they're not bad stuff. If you are new to the channel and you have watched this far, guys, please do consider subscribing, and while you're there, ring the notification bell. I would appreciate it. Until next time, I have been Jay. Thank you for being here. Play more games. Stay square.